Hey everybody, Jake here from Bearded Gear, and I've got a first impressions that I need to get done. This is the Alliance Designs CMF Conquest. This is a collaboration between CMF Metalworks, as known on Instagram, and Alliance Designs. Now, I still don't know exactly where this knife is being made. On their website it says that they work with a couple of different overseas distributors. I think they even say in Asia, so I'm assuming this is made by either We or Riat. Whoever's making it, they've done a really good job. This knife is just really well made. I have had quite a few titanium frame lock flippers over the last couple of years, and from a number of manufacturers, a number of different designers, and I feel like I have a pretty good feel for what makes a good one. This one is definitely really well dialed in. There are a couple of things that right off the bat I really like about this knife, and a couple of things that I'm not so crazy about that I can already tell you after just carrying this knife for one day. So I'm going to be doing I'm going to have it in my pocket more than I have already before I do a full review, but just wanted to give you some of my first impressions on this guy as I kind of set off on this journey with it. So first things first, we've got titanium handle construction. We've got two slabs held apart by A, the blade and the pivot, and B, a couple of barrel spacers back there. These barrel spacers are really nice. I don't normally notice barrel spacers, but the way that these are finished and the shaping on them, they're pretty intricate. They look really cool. The titanium seems to be top grade titanium. I don't know how I would necessarily know that, but it feels very nice. It's finished really nice. This one is like the bronzed finish one, but with some wear in hand, it's barely bronze. It almost seems gray, but it's just kind of where the stone washing is coming through, where you can see kind of some bronze shining through just a little bit. I don't know if the lighting will really pick that up, but I think it looks great. Then the clip is orange peeled, which I think looks really cool. I'm not usually crazy about orange peel finish, but in small touches like this, just on the clip, I like it. I'm not as big on it when it's like a whole handle scale. I feel like it just, I don't aesthetically really appreciate it, but it looks great here on the clip. We've got good Torx hardware. It looks to be T8s, if I'm not mistaken. The pivot as well. The pivot, we've got access with tools on both sides, so I assume you would need to use 2 bits if you were disassembling this knife. And then I like that the screws for the body construction, if you will, are only on one side. So the show side of this knife is pretty sterile in terms of hardware. Of course, you've got the pivot, you have to have that, but other than that, there's no hardware showing at all. It's just these really cool holes that have been drilled in, and sometimes I think people can go overboard on drilling holes. Sometimes it seems like they've just been done just to do it. This really feels like it's a well-placed part of the design, and aesthetically I like the pattern that they've gone small to gradually larger and then back down to small. I think it just looks really good, so I like that. Again, I also really like the holes here, these 3 holes, because you can see through them. They're mirrored on the lock side as well, so the fact that those see all the way through the knife, I think looks really cool. This whole knife has I don't know, kind of a skeletal feel to it in terms of the scales, and I mean that in a good, cool way. It feels very open and simple, but it's when you get close to it and you look at the ways that it's been milled and the way the holes have been drilled, the subtle chamfers and scalloping, and all of it is really precise, and I like that about it. I feel like on a titanium frame lock flipper in this day and age, especially at this price point, these go for I think $325. You're looking for a lot of precision and a lot of really well done details on a knife. So I really like those handle scales. Next, let's talk about the clip. The clip itself, I think, looks great. Aesthetically, it's a very good looking clip, but it's probably functionality wise my least favorite part of this knife. So 3D milled titanium pocket clips, I think, can be good when they're done really well. I really like, for example, the pocket clip on my Koenig Arius. That's a 3D milled titanium pocket clip, and it's done excellent. It really works well. This one looks fantastic. It's even drilled from the inside, or screwed in, secured from the inside, so that you don't see any hardware on it out here. I think it looks awesome, and that's about where it ends for me. The functionality of it, I guess in pocket, it goes in and out, and it has good retention. Like, it works for holding into the pocket and putting in and taking out. That being said, the corners on this, both here and here, both of these back corners are sharp. Like they should definitely, in my opinion, have been knocked down substantially. They could have just rounded this and that problem would be gone. But instead they're like these sharp corners, which I've noticed if the knife is in my pocket and I run my hand against it or something, it's like unpleasant. It's like actually kind of sharp. And then on top of that, the ergo's in my hand. I feel that there. I really do. If you have bigger or smaller hands than me, you might not. But where that lands in my palm, it goes like right here. And it's really, I don't like that poking me right there. That it's a definite negative for me on the pocket clip there. And then on top of that, this point here is also kind of sharp. So just like when it's in my pocket, if I catch a finger or run my arm across it or whatever, this part's sharp. Same thing on the bottom here. This part's sharp too. So I feel like this knife this clip could have been really good if they just rounded that off, made this like a nice, smooth, rounded end here. And then again here, if they made this less of a point and just made it a little bit rounder, a little bit less harsh, this would be excellent. And it would feel good in hand, and it would work just as good in pocket, because functionally it works well as a pocket clip. It's got good retention, it's got the right amount of springiness, and I don't think aesthetically it would look worse with those changes either. I don't think having this be a sharp notch here makes it look better than it would if it were rounded. So yeah, I think that's my biggest negative about the knife, frankly, is the pocket clip. Next, let's talk about the blade. Now this has a trailing point, which is really cool. This is the first knife I think I've ever owned with a trailing point, and I think it looks really, really cool. To have this angle here up on the top spine of the knife, if you will, the whole thing is a swedge, and I think that looks really, really awesome. The grinds are perfect on here. They're absolutely even. They're mirrored evenly on both sides. The edge bevel is perfect. The grind lines are gorgeous. I don't know how well it will show, but the satin finish on here with those grind lines, I think it looks phenomenal. The hollow grind for the edge itself is really well done. This blade stock isn't thin. It's almost deceiving because the top of the knife is a swedge. Like I said, the whole spine is a swedge, so it's a little bit difficult. Like usually I look at the spine of the knife to see how thick it looks, and here it's like, since it's a swedge, it tapers down to the flat. But if you feel at the flat, this knife is not thin. I don't know exactly what the blade stock thickness is, but it's not an overly thin blade stock. It's about like average, I would say. So the fact that they've done this hollow grind, and it's not a crazy tall hollow grind, but they've got enough room here. They hollow ground it really well to get thin behind the edge and to have a pretty solid thin distance, if that makes sense. It's not just thin right behind the edge and then it gets thick quick. There's like a good almost flat of the hollow grind, especially here in the belly, where it's just like a constant thinness until you get about halfway up that hollow grind, and then it starts to thicken out. So really well done grinds. Again, whoever is manufacturing this knife did an excellent job on those types of details. This blade shape, I think, frankly, is really usable too. It's really stabby with that point on it. If you want to penetrate into material, it's going to do very well. That being said, it's not super, like, so thin at the tip that I'd be overly concerned about snapping it. I'd say it's comparable in like the tip thickness to like a PM2 or a Para 3. Yeah, let's see what else. I guess this shape here is something that I was a little bit concerned about before having the knife. I thought that might be kind of a hot spot when holding the knife. And I will say it's kind of a sharp angle right there, but my thumb doesn't really want to land right on the angle. In fact, it gives me kind of a cool indexing spot to kind of put my thumb right here. And it gives me like this pressure, the way that it makes, like kind of forces my thumb into this position. It gives me a really kind of locked in like forward push on the knife, which I like. Or I can put my thumb further up and then I've got like a great index here. It's a little bit thin of a spot to put my thumb because of that swedge all the way up here, but it's not uncomfortable, it's not sharp, and it would definitely work if I was trying to do some push cuts, stuff like that, in a saber grip. In a hammer grip, obviously that doesn't matter at all. In a reverse grip, this knife is surprisingly comfortable to me. Usually knives that have like overly shaped handles and aren't very neutral, I find are not so favorable in a reverse grip. This works pretty well. I can definitely feel that spot there, but it's not bothersome. And I've got a great spot up here to put my thumb. So I really like this knife in a variety of grips. In a draw cut, it actually works, again, better than I would expect it would. And I guess reverse draw, that's not particularly comfortable, but I don't know who's going to be using this knife in that grip very often, at least. So I think this knife is awesome. The action on these bearings is excellent. I say it's on bearings, I'm just assuming. It looks to me, yeah, I think it's on bearings. I probably should like read the spec sheets on these knives more before doing these types of videos. But that being said, I think also maybe it's kind of nice that I'm not. I'm not trying to just like be a tabletop reviewer who's reading spec sheets and giving you exact dimensions and weights and all that. Like the way that I experience knives is by using them and feeling them and carrying them. And so if you get used to seeing the way that I review knives, I think hopefully it might be even more valuable to you than somebody who's just reading you more of the specs and who's reviewing a knife for you after just cutting a little bit of cardboard and having it in their pocket on their couch. Like, yeah, I don't mean to slam on those types of reviewers. I watch a ton of those videos, but that said, I'm not like a hard specs and data kind of guy. I'm more of a feel it, use it, experience it, and then talk about it kind of guy. So take that for what it's worth. Yeah, I really, really like this action. If I have my fingers on the lock bar, then it is a little bit harder to engage. I can feel that pressure there. It still works. It's not like it locks up and I can't open the knife, which is good. I don't like it when lock bars are that sensitive. But I find if I keep my fingers kind of up on the clip, it's buttery coming out of there. Just really, really smooth, really crisp, really snappy. The detent is great for a flipper. It feels like it's dialed to be a flipper, and yeah, it works really, really well. I think that's about it. I do really like this knife aesthetically. I think that's what drew me to it more than anything else, and that's probably what draws a lot of people to a knife like this. This knife, like philosophy of use wise, I don't think is really like a hard user type of knife. I don't know that anyone would like really choose this for that purpose, but as like a kind of dressed up, cool, really like attractive looking EDC, it'll be great. We've got M390 blade steel that I'll assume is treated well. It's going to hold an edge for a long time. It's a great balance, super steel. We've got really nice, solid titanium scales. We've got a frame lock. It's locking up solid and securely. And it's like riding the line, in my opinion, between being pocket jewelry and being like really usable. This knife is a little bit pretty for me to really like beat on, but it's still something that I will enjoy carrying and using lightly. And yeah, I'll have more to say about it in my full review once I've had it in pocket a little bit more, used it a little bit more. But so far, I think that's a pretty solid first impressions. So there you have it. That is the Alliance Designs CMF Conquest, and this is my first impressions from a really cool spot.